endlessly in slow motion, but I think the time is near. But I think the time is near to wait in the water. If we fade, why even bother? The worst case, we will sink to the bottom. Take our place with the loves we have long forgotten.
Hi friends, welcome to A Lovely Yarn podcast. This is episode 23 and my name is Amber. I am filming from the rolling hills of Western Pennsylvania. Thank you so much for coming and joining me, watching my podcast, which is mostly about knitting and spinning and crocheting and some other fiber arts as well. So today is August 28th and it's really hard to believe that our summer is pretty much over. Yeah, it's definitely it's sweater weather, at least in the mornings and in the evenings. And actually, I think it's only been in the 60s during the day, so that's pretty much sweater weather for me. I was telling somebody the other day that I think this has been the busiest summer of my adult life. And for various reasons. So it seemed to go by exceptionally fast. We had a lot of fun. We did a lot of things. I don't know, it was a good summer. It was a really good summer. And so now we're approaching fall, which I know fall is a favorite season of a lot of people, particularly knitters. It's my daughter's favorite season. In fact, when she went outside last week, we had a day that was in the mid-60s all day. And she went out in her long sleeve shirt and her jeans, and she was so excited, and so that was fun to watch. And so the funny thing is I actually filmed on Monday. I spent probably 3 hours Monday morning filming, and then I had to go do some errands. I came home, sat down to edit, put all the footage onto my laptop, and realized that there were huge sections just completely missing. And the reason it took so long in the first place on Monday morning was, well, my camera battery is older, so it died a couple times. I had to pause to recharge it. And then I had bought a spare battery, and I bought it probably 4 months ago, and it was like a generic one off of Amazon. It won't charge. Let's see. Oh, my camera kept shutting off, and I didn't realize my card was full, like my memory card was full. My husband was working from home that day, and he walked in, and my dogs. It was just and I'm going to be honest, I wasn't really in the right frame of mind on Monday to film anyway, so when I sat down to edit the footage, I was really disappointed because there was just too much missing for me to just insert parts in where they needed to be. But at the same time, I thought, after I chilled out about it, I thought, well, I really wasn't in the mood to podcast anyway, so it was kind of like a forced thing. Today I'm feeling much more in the mood to podcast. I'm just hoping my battery lasts long enough for me to get it all filmed. And today I am making sure I keep an eye on my viewfinder and that my little red record button keeps blinking, because I wasn't paying attention to that on Monday, so several times it stopped filming without me knowing, and I was talking for at least 10-15 minutes. Yeah, so I think that, I did use, so I announced the giveaway winner from my last episode, and that was for this skein from the Angora Moose and the little hedgehog progress keeper. And I used a random comment picker off of all there were I think 300 unique comments, so you can filter out any duplicate comments. So anyway, I picked that, and let me see, Pub Knitter, I think is what the name was. And I already contacted her, because I contacted her as soon as I did it on YouTube. I just commented on her comment, and she's already got in touch with me, so I'm going to get that package sent out to her. So thank you guys for commenting, for participating in that giveaway. I have another one coming up. Judy from the Autumn Acorn is sending me a package to do. She's sponsoring a giveaway for one of my upcoming podcasts, so that's really excited. I really appreciate it when my viewers send things for giveaways. It's just so humbling, actually, and I'm just very grateful for them. So thank you, Kayla from the Angora Moose, for sponsoring that giveaway. And yeah, that's all. We'll just move on now. So I only have one finished object for this podcast. I talked about it. I hadn't even started it in my last podcast. I was actually talking about this shawl. It's the Color Craze shawl by Tamy Gore, and I had asked some opinions on two different options. And if you guys watched the podcast last month, you know that I had two options, and I had picked three main colors. And honestly, when I was planning this shawl, I was planning on making this a 3-color shawl. And most people picked option A. There were some that picked option B. And honestly, I kind of didn't go with either of them, because I ended up completely changing my mind about how I wanted to go about this shawl. But I did go with two main colors from option B, which was the Lamb and Vine Pale Primrose, and then Kayla from the Angora Moose, her Salted Sands colorway. Let's see. Do I have those? I think I do. Yes, I do. So these were my main two colors. This is the Salted Sands. This is the Pale Primrose. And this is the shawl here. This is the Color Craze shawl from Tamy Gore. Let me grab it. Okay. It was an absolute pleasure to knit. I really, really enjoyed this. So let's take it off the hanger, and I will tell you a little bit about it. Okay, so what I ended up doing was using the Salted Sands on either end of the shawl, and then I dispersed it in the shawl as well. So this color here is Salted Sands, and then at the bottom, this larger panel down here at the point of the shawl is also Salted Sands. And then this is the Pale Primrose, and I also put the Pale Primrose up here. So those were my main two colors. I actually started to use the, I think it was the Sea Glass color, which was also part of option B when I did that little pull. And I just wasn't liking how that greenish blue color was blending. And then I started thinking, boy, this shawl could be really, really fun if I just gathered up mini skeins that matched these two main colors and just played around with the color placement. So that's what I ended up doing. And what I did is I went down to I have a couple baskets of mini skeins, and I just gathered up the ones that I thought were complementary in color with my two main colors of my shawl. And then I ended up just adding them in as I got in the mood to. And that was really, really fun to do it that way. I think that's why I just wanted to knit on the shawl all the time, because things were constantly changing. I wasn't feeling bored at all in the process. It was just really fun to change up color, and I really enjoyed it. And that's also why I would totally knit another one of these shawls again, because it's just the constant color change really is exciting for me. It keeps things exciting. So yeah, I just took this basket and my shawl, and I just carried it around with me, and added in the colors. I would kind of just hold a ball up like next to the last color I did in the shawl and see if that's what I wanted. And then I would add it in. This was my first time knitting brioche. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I was kind of nervous about doing it, but in Tamy's pattern, she provides a link to a website that is, I think it's all about brioche. So she recommended that if you'd never knitted brioche before, you go check that out. And I did, and I was really glad that I did. And just a little note to those of you who have never knitted brioche before, you do not see the brioche developing like this. Let me show you what I mean. So this is a brioche panel here, as is this and this. When you're knitting brioche, you do not see that two color pattern developing until you're probably 3 or 4 rows into the brioche section. And I was really glad that I read that ahead of time, because I remember thinking, the first brioche panel, I remember thinking, this does not look right. This is not looking like it's supposed to look. So that was really helpful knowing that. So any of you that have not knitted brioche and plan on knitting, keep that in mind. Some of the yarns I used in this include 6 and 7 fiber. That I used several of hers. The yellow is hers. Some of these, this one is hers as well. And then I used Willow Tree yarns, which was, well, it's kind of hard to see because it's mixed in. I didn't follow the pattern exactly. This brioche section has the willow trees, like the grayish color is the Willow Tree yarn. And then I used some of Woolly Mammoth Fiber Co., which is this one right here. And then these shades down here of like the blue and purple, those are Bluebird yarns. And I think that's pretty much what I used as far as the mini skeins, the indie dyers anyway. So I've noticed that quite a few people are knitting this on Instagram anyway, and I'm so happy with it. Like, I am so incredibly happy. I love that it is a fingering weight shawl because it's nice and drapey, and yet it's going to be nice and warm as well. And you can see how big it is. It's a very nice size shawl. So yeah, I'm super happy with this. I could definitely see myself knitting a second just because it's so much fun to play with all those different colors. Yeah, and I've realized that I love Tammy Gore's patterns. I have 3 of them. This is the first one I've knit though. So I have a cowl pattern that I bought last year sometime that you use different minis, and it's all different colors. And then I have one that I talked about in my last episode that I'm going to start, and I can't remember what it's called. But I'm going to use the Cozy Posy Yarn Co. yarn to make that. It's very fall looking. The colors are very fall looking, so I'm going to be starting that. I already have that ready to go. But yeah, I really like Tammy's patterns, and that's Narrow Path Designs, I think is her. If you would look up either on Ravelry, you should be able to find her. Although I will say I link everything down below, so if you want to look into anything that I mention on the podcast, you can just look down below in the description box and you should find a link there, unless I have forgotten. Then you can just ask and I will provide that. So yes, Color Craze shawl, super happy with it. It's my only finished object for this podcast episode. Okay, and then I'm going to mention what I'm wearing. I showed you guys this on my last podcast episode. I had just finished it and I hadn't even blocked it yet. This is my Hilah sweater by Rachel of September Knits, and it has these really pretty cables on the front. And yeah, I talked about it in detail on my last podcast, but I just wanted to show it now that I'm actually wearing it. It's super cozy, and this is knit in Knit Picks City Tweed. This is the first time I've ever knit a sweater in this yarn, so we'll see how it holds up, because this is also like only the second time I've worn this sweater. but we'll see how it holds up. But it's very cozy and soft. It's not itchy at all for me. My daughter loves this sweater, so I'll probably end up making one for her at some point as well. All right, so now let's talk about my works in progress, which I only have 2 active works in progress. And the first one is my Dreama sweater, which I showed you guys on my last episode. And at that point, I was only on the yoke. I'd only gotten the yoke done. So this is how far I am. I'm actually pretty close to being done. I need to switch to smaller double pointed needles to finish off the ribbing on this cuff, on the sleeve cuff, and then I will just pick up stitches over here and I will knit this sleeve and then we will be done. I don't know if you guys do this when you knit your sweaters, but can you see all those dangly stitch markers? That's how I keep track of how many decreases I do. And as I work down this sleeve then, I will just move those over so I'll know when I have the same number of decreases on the second sleeve as I did the first sleeve. I forget where I heard a podcaster talking about that once and I thought that's a really good idea. So I've been doing that with my sweaters and I find it really helpful. So this yarn that I'm using with this is Drops Air, and it's a blown yarn. It's alpaca, merino, and polyamide. And what it means when it's a blown yarn is it has like a tube and then they blow the fiber down into it. So I'm using color, I think color 6. They don't have color names. Let me just make sure. Color 6 is the charcoal color, and color 3 is this light gray color. This pattern is actually written up to be like a 3 or 4, I think a 4 color pattern, but I just wanted to do the 2 colors. And I think it looks really nice. I originally started to make this for myself, and I realized last week when I binded off the hem of the sweater and tried it on, even though I had been trying it on as I went, I realized that it was just a little bit more form-fitting. It fit me, but I like my sweaters loose like this one. And it was a little bit more form-fitting than what I really felt comfortable wearing. And I was like, I should have made it a little longer too. It seemed like it was going to be good as I was trying it on, but then once I finally bound it off, I don't know, it just kind of lifted a little bit, and I don't know if it's the yarn. I'm not really sure. So I thought, well, I will just block it aggressively and hopefully that'll stretch it out enough. So I could still try that, but my daughter loves this sweater, and so I had her try it on yesterday and it fits her perfectly. And it's not, she's very sensitive to wool and natural fibers. Usually, even socks that I've made her in the past on her feet, if some of them are just too itchy and scratchy for her to wear. So although this yarn is extremely soft and I don't find it the least bit itchy, I wasn't sure how she would feel with it up against her skin. And I actually chose the rolled neckline option on this pattern, so it's not, when I put this on, it actually doesn't touch my neck if I would wear like a t-shirt or something underneath it. So she tried this on with a long sleeve t-shirt yesterday and it fit her perfectly and it wasn't itchy at all. And then I worked on the sleeve yesterday and I had her try it on again because I wanted to see what sleeve length I needed for her. And she just had like a cami on and it didn't even bother her just up against her bare skin, except a little bit on her arms, but she said she felt like that sensation would go away after a little while. So this is going to be for my daughter. And I'm actually really happy about that. As much as I love this sweater and would love to wear it myself, I have not knit her a sweater since she was little. And that is because she's been growing. And so and she's my last child, so I just felt like, wow, that's a lot of work to knit a sweater for her to wear for one season. So, but I feel like now that she's a teenager, like she's 13, almost 14, I thought, well, maybe, I think she's pretty much reached her height and like where she's going to be. So this should be fine. Plus, honestly, this would fit me, and I'm 5'8.5". I think Lily is 5'5" or 5'6" or something. I don't even know. But this would fit me, so it should fit her for a while, even if she would grow an inch or two. And then what I'm going to do with the sleeves is I'm going to make an extra long ribbed hem, so that she can fold the sleeves up, and so the sleeves will grow with her. And then if she ever gets tired of the sweater, I will just take it back and have it myself. And my arms are very long. My arms are definitely longer than hers, but with that extra long ribbed hem on the sleeves, it should fit me in my arms. So that is the plan. This is going to make an awesome outer layer. In fact, we are leaving for Maine on Saturday, and so my goal was to get this done before we left for Maine, but I kind of got discouraged when I realized I don't really like the fit of this. But now that I know Lily's going to have this, she's like, Mom, can you get it done for Maine? So even if I don't get it done before we leave, we have a very long car ride. I will definitely get this done on the way up to Maine, and we will need sweaters, in the mornings and evenings when we're up there. So this is going to be perfect for her to wear. We always go out to where we stay. We stay in Bar Harbor, and so there's the mountains there of Acadia, and then there's also the rocky coastline. And our favorite thing to do almost every evening is we drive to the coast, which is like just huge boulders. I always take my knitting and a blanket, and I sit there and knit, and Ian and Lily and Brad just kind of, I don't know, we just hang out on the rocks and watch the sun set. So this will be perfect for her to wear during those evenings. So yeah, that's the sweater. I love colorwork sweaters. Colorwork is one of my favorite things to knit. I just love, I don't know, again, I don't get bored. I have to admit, knitting with this dark yarn was challenging. Not only because I was getting bored of it, but also because of the lighting. I normally knit at night or first thing in the morning. So at night I would sit down. I have a chair out in our living room that has like a gooseneck. It's a tall lamp that's a floor lamp, and it has a gooseneck on it with the lamp ball at the bottom. So I would pretty much have to sit in that chair and direct the light right on this, because it was just hard to see. We don't really use overhead lighting in our house. We use lamps, and I needed direct lighting when working on this at night. So, okay, that's all I have for that. So yeah, that hopefully will be finished up so she can wear this. And I'm not going to worry about blocking it, because honestly, this yarn is very sturdy yarn, and I honestly don't feel like there's a need to block it, other than to try to stretch it out if I was going to wear it. So I'm not going to worry about blocking it before the first wear. Okay, and then I have just a pair of socks. I'm not going to talk about these a lot, but Lily's lucking out. These are for Lily, again, my daughter Lily. And these are the Hermione's Everyday Socks. I do not know the name or the maker or the dyer of this yarn. This was sent to me by Carrie on the Coast on Instagram. She sent me a very generous gift box. I think it was last winter, like over the winter. And this yarn was in there, and it just reminded me of Lily. When I started knitting it up, I just thought, those are Lily colors. She said it reminds her of cotton candy, and I can totally see why. There we go. I'm sure Carrie had the label in the box with this. It was already caked up, but I'm pretty sure she probably had the label, because she did have labels on things, and I probably just misplaced it. But yeah, so these are for Lily as well. And then I just want to show you the bags. Two of the bags I'm using for both of my works in progress. The bags I'm using are from Olivia of This Handmade Life. I love her stuff. So my little sock project bag is, isn't this beautiful? She has this flower stitched on there. What is that called? Like paper? I don't know. She just does so many amazing things. She's so talented. So that's my little sock project bag. And then this one is larger. I have to say, I am really shoving my Dreama sweater in here to make it fit. So I feel like this would maybe fit a fingering weight sweater better than a worsted weight sweater like the Dreama is. But this is so pretty. It's quilted. And then I love how she did these sections of lace that she stitched on. And then, anyway. This is definitely a good one for shawls. And I know Olivia recently had a shop update. Beautiful tote bags. Oh. And I really wanted to purchase one, but I had to hold myself back, But I love her work, so I'll link her shop below. You can go check her out if you're interested in some beautiful project bags. And follow her on Instagram because her feed is amazing. It's just an absolutely gorgeous, totally inspiring feed. And I really love following her and seeing everything that she's into on there. One more little thing I forgot to show that I made, which it hardly counts because it's so little, but is this little birdie. And this pattern is called, I think it's called the Bluebird of Happiness. And it's written, I believe it's written for worsted weight yarn, but you can make it in whatever yarn you want. And I've made these before. Let's see if I can zoom. Speaking of zooming, there we go. I found out Emily of the Goldberry Artisans informed me that her Nikon camera, which is, I have a Nikon, does not have the autofocus. Like, I've had people tell me, just let it focus on the object you're trying to zoom on. Just like hold it there and it will eventually focus. But apparently not all cameras do that, and so my model of Nikon does not do that, which is why I have to manually focus each time. But anyway, I am actually sending this to a friend, and I used fingering weight yarn. I knit a lot of these back at Christmas time and gave them as gifts. I have some friends, some close friends. We did a ornament exchange, and I made a bunch of these and gave them each one. And so I made this for a friend, and I just kind of prayed for her as I made it because she's had a rough year. So that's what I'm going. I just wanted to show you that. I think these birds are so sweet. They're so cute. I have a bowl of my hand spun that is like the ends that I didn't have quite enough to ply with something else, and I'd like to actually make a bunch of the birds out of my hand spun, and they'll be a little bit bigger, but I thought that'd be a really nice thing to do and to hang out, I don't know, on our Christmas tree, which I'm not really even thinking about Christmas, but just hang out, put some branches in a vase and hang them off the branches, just year-round decor. So I'd like to do that eventually. I've been thinking about that for months, but I haven't actually done it yet. Okay, so I wanted to talk about a couple books. I've been meaning to talk about this book, and I actually got this a while ago. It's called Coffeehouse Knits. So my husband and I are big coffee drinkers. My husband, a couple years ago, learned how to roast coffee beans, and so that's what we do. I am a self-proclaimed coffee snob. I really am. I don't think I'm snobby about many things, but I am about coffee. So he roasts our beans here at home, and we have an espresso machine, and so we grind our beans right before we pull our shots. Like, we are definitely particular about our coffee, and we love coffee. So when I saw this come out, I was like, okay, I feel like I need to just get that book. Plus, that's not the main reason I bought it. Actually, I looked on Ravelry. I don't know if you guys know this, but if there's a knitting pattern book that you want to look and see what the patterns are in it before you actually commit to buying it, you can go on Ravelry and you can type in the name of the book. And for most books, you can see every single pattern that's in that book, which I think is really nice because I want to see what I'm buying. And when you have, so on Amazon, I know when I'm on Amazon on my laptop, I can actually preview a lot of books, just like they have this click on this or click to view or something like that. But it doesn't show all of the patterns, it just shows like a sample of the book, but you can get on Ravelry and look at the patterns that way. So when I did that, I realized there are actually a lot of patterns in here that I would actually knit. So I wanted to just show you a couple of those and tell you that this book has, it has like little essays in it from the designers. So the first one that I absolutely love is by Lori Wagner. It's the Chai Latte Cowl. And I thought this is going to be amazing to make as gifts because cowls are usually pretty fast, and it takes 2 skeins of worsted weight yarn. So the fact that it's worsted weight, yeah, is going to make it go even faster. But so that was one of them that I really, really liked. And also the colors of the pictures are really pretty too. They're very neutral. Maybe they're not pretty if you like bold colors, but bold neon colors, but I like the very earthy colors. This is a hat by Shannon Cook that I thought is really nice, called the cafe hat. Oh, I love this one. It's called the Dirty Chai Pullover. I'm going to show it to you on the back because you can actually see the whole thing. It looks so cozy and warm and just like it would be perfect with a pair of leggings and hand knit socks. And, okay, hold on, stand by. Melody Hoffman has a beautiful bulky weight shawl in here that I would love to knit, but I don't really have, I don't have enough bulky weight. This particular pattern, she used Pearl Soho Super Soft Merino. But this is so beautiful. Is that herringbone? I don't know if that's probably not that pattern, but it's just really cozy looking and pretty. Here you can see it. Hold on, because I know there was another cowl, and there's multiple sweaters in this book, multiple cowls. There's socks. There's a couple scarves. Here we go, the cafe cowl. It's a houndstooth pattern. I love that. It uses worsted weight yarn, and I actually have enough worsted weight yarn in 2 contrasting colors that I think would just be perfect for this cowl. So this is definitely on my plan to make, and actually I might take this and make it on my way to Maine because it is super simple. And then here, look at the frothy pullover. So yeah, anyway, I just wanted to share that with you guys. There's a pair of mittens in here that are really cute, but I really like this book. There's probably only 2 patterns that I really wouldn't be totally interested in knitting, and that's because they have like a V-neck that I really wouldn't be into wearing. I just don't like the style of it, and they're both sweater patterns. But there's plenty of other things in here that I love. But get on Ravelry, look up Coffeehouse Knits if you're interested and you want to see what patterns are actually in this book. And that way you can decide if you think that it's a good book for you. Okay, I have actually 2 other books that I want to talk about because I've been doing some natural dyeing, and these books are about natural dyeing. This one, A Garden to Dye For, I've had for a couple years. I don't particularly like it. I'm showing it because I have used it to get some very basic information, but it is a very basic book. There's not a lot of meat in this book. So what I ended up doing, I ended up ordering Wild Color. I had seen this recommended by various natural dyers, and this book is much more informative and educational. I mean, it's definitely not exhaustive. There is a book that I saw, I think Marie of Ninja Chickens talked about a book that's very scientific, And I saw it when I looked this one up. I saw it on Amazon, but it was 40 some dollars, and I don't, honestly right now, I don't need that much information. I just want to know how to use some basic plants that are growing in my backyard. So this is plenty for what I want to do right now. And what I really like about this is it gives all the information on like how to make your mordants, how to mordant animal fibers, vegetable fibers, how to prepare the fibers for dyeing. And then it has over 60 different dye plants that you could use. I feel like a lot of them are native to my area here in the northeast of the United States. There's some that I haven't seen, but like for instance, birch. I have birch growing in my yard. We have birch trees. And this shows you all the different colors you can get. I think this is using the leaf material, this is using the bark, and then using different mordants. And by modifying the pH of the dye bath, you can get these different shades. And it does that for every single dye plant that it has in here. So this is going to be a very helpful book. Did you know you can dye with pears, pear leaves, pear bark? It's kind of similar in color to the birch. Oak, like look at that. You can get like a purplish grayish shade with oak. We have so much oak in Pennsylvania. So yes, this will be helpful. And actually what I am doing right now, well, first of all, I have amaranth that I planted in my garden this year, and I've showed amaranth in on Instagram. It's a very dramatic looking plant. It has very bright magenta flowers that kind of cascade down, and so I decided I was going to try to dye some yarn and fiber with that. And there was not much information on the internet about how to actually dye with it, but I found one blog that talked about doing a solar bath, because with amaranth, and I think this is with most dye plants that produce red dyes, if you tip the heat over a little too hot, you'll lose the red shade and it'll become more brown. So this woman on her blog suggested doing a solar bath with the dye material and your fiber or your yarn actually in a glass jar, setting it out in the sun, letting it sit there for a couple of weeks. So that's what I ended up doing. Now this yarn is yarn that I had originally dyed with Kool-Aid, and I talked about this on one of my previous podcast episodes, but it was just a little too bright for me, a little too, it wasn't neon, but it was just a little too like, wow, bright. So I did an over dye in an amaranth bath, and I feel like it helped tone it down. So it's not quite so bright anymore. I feel like it really helped with toning it down. And then I also took some merino fiber and put another jar in with some dye material. Now, this was my first time dyeing with amaranth, and I will not do it this way again, because when I went out and I opened up the jars, the smell was horrific. It was horrific. In fact, I was like, oh my gosh, I just want to throw this yarn and fiber away because I can't handle the smell of it. And it makes sense because it was sitting in the sun, for I think a week and a half. So this I was able to, I don't notice the smell. I soaked it, like the smell is completely gone from this. However, the fiber, I could not get rid of that stench. And honestly, it was making me want to gag. And like the whole day I felt nauseous after that. So I ended up throwing the merino fiber away. So in the future, if I dye with amaranth, what I will do is do the solar bath. I have fiber in my nose. I'll do the solar bath with just the dye material, like the plant material and the water, and then I will drain off the dye and then I'll do maybe another solar bath with the actual fiber in it. And I think that will help. I don't know. We'll have to see. I'll have to experiment. And I'm not going to have time to do that this summer, so maybe next summer I'll mess around with that. So I was kind of disappointed I had to throw away that merino, but I only dyed 2 ounces of it because I wasn't sure, because there wasn't a whole lot of information. So I didn't want to completely ruin it, which I did. But throwing away 2 ounces of merino was better than, 4 or upwards. I also have goldenrod growing in our pasture, and we have pokeberries, which grow they just spring up wherever here. Pokeberries they produce a very dark, you can even get like a red shade from what I've read online. My only hesitation with pokeberries is that they stain and they're so messy, and I have a white kitchen and wooden countertops. So ideally what I would like to do is when they're ripe, they're not quite ripe yet, but when they are ripe, I would like to make the dye bath outside. I'd like to just build a campfire and put my pot over that and let it slowly cook out the color and make the dye that way. Because it's just, I know it's going to be a huge mess. And I also think I remember reading at one point that pokeberries do have some level of toxicity to them, so I don't really want to have that in my house and all of us be inhaling the vapors. I think sometimes we think, well, because something's natural, then it's completely safe, but that's not true. We still need to be careful even when we're using natural dye material. I know last fall my brother-in-law and I dyed some stuff with black walnuts, and he made up the dye bath in his garage, and he was just it made him so sick, like the smell of it. And it was a huge vat because he dyed some boots and I dyed a bunch of yarn, and it was just, you still have to be careful even though you're using natural materials. And one last thing I want to show you guys. I've been collecting hibiscus leaves. We have a hibiscus plant, and it's one of the ones that they get the really dark colored flowers. So every day I go out. We've had a really good harvest of them this year. They don't always do so well, but I mean this bowl is full of dried hibiscus flowers, and I'm drying them, and I will store them until I get some bare yarn. I really don't have bare yarn right now. I have a skein that Carrie from My Wool Mittens sent me back in the spring, but it's only one skein, and I have a lot here, so I want to, it's not in my budget right now, but when I do have the money, I do want to get some bare yarn and try dyeing with this, because I've seen that you can get beautiful purple colors, and I would love that. So, but in the meantime, I am harvesting this beautiful hibiscus. I think it's so pretty. I'm having a good time. It's in our, we have one shrub, and it's doing so great today. This year, we used to have 2, and the other one died. But this one is just really producing a wonderful amount of flowers this year. So I'm excited to dye some yarn or some fiber up with this. There. And the last thing I want to share with you guys today is I played around with my drum carder the other night, and I made 3 rolags. These are much more pink in real life than they're showing up on the camera. Let's see here. We're not really getting the pink. They definitely look more silvery gray. The pink, though, you can kind of see it here. This is actually using merino fiber that I naturally dyed with avocado last summer. I dyed a bunch of merino roving with avocado, and you can kind of see that here. And then I also dyed this skein back here. Actually, there's 2 skeins of yarn hanging there. I have probably 4 of those that are also dyed with avocado. And the interesting thing with avocado, for any of you that are learning to do natural dyeing or playing around with it, if you make the pH of your dye bath more alkaline, I think it's alkaline, so like adding baking soda, you'll get more of the pinks. The more acidic, if you make it more acidic, you'll get more of the brown colors. So I actually modified, when I first made the dye bath, it was very brown. I was getting a lot of brown on my fibers, but I wanted the pink, so I just added I think it was baking soda. It doesn't look very pink right now there, but it's definitely more pink than brown. And you can see that in these as well. I did the same thing with the merino. So these have that merino that was dyed with avocado. They have gray merino, and they have some Leicester long wool locks that I bought at Maryland Sheep and Wool. I put in some purple and some pinkish peachy ones as well. And I did the same with all 3 bats. And there is I think there's like 2.5 ounces total in this. And I'm still learning how to use my drum carder. I ran each of them through like 3 or 4 times. And I'm actually sending this off to somebody. But I'm curious. Yeah, I don't know. It's just really, I love these colors. I love these soft, delicate colors. And I have more of this fiber to make more, I still have not fixed my spinning wheel yet. It's just pure laziness on my part. I just need to replace the drive band. I just haven't done it. Honestly, I really haven't taken the time to even think about spinning because I've been so busy, and then I just want to grab something that's all ready to go, like a knitting project. I don't want to have to worry about, messing with my wheel. But I will this fall when things hopefully slow down a little bit. But yeah, so this was just like experimental, and it was quite nice to just sit there, and it was a very slow process, which it's good to purposefully slow down every now and then. So I had some time the other evening, and I took advantage of it to make these up, and I'll be sending these off to a dear friend here. Alright, well that is everything, guys, and I thank you so much for joining me again. And if you want to leave a comment and say hello, I always appreciate that. I read everyone, and I usually respond to everyone, although I have to apologize with the last video. I did not. It was too much to respond to, so I think I just tried to like everybody's comments, and I don't even know that I got around to doing that, but I do read every comment. So thank you guys so much for doing that. I really appreciate it. I hope you're enjoying the end of your summer. We are, like I said, we're getting ready to go to Maine, so that's always something that we look forward to. We always go at the beginning, like end of August, beginning of September. It's our it's our family vacation, our annual family vacation that we all really enjoy. Maine is definitely my happy place, and I think it's like everybody in my family. I think everyone loves Maine. That's what we're getting ready to do, and we're getting back into our school year. My kids started their online classes last week, and then we will start everything else once we get back from Maine. And yeah, so that's all for today. Thank you guys so much for joining me, and have a wonderful rest of your summer and beginning of fall. Take care.